master your destiny, transforming fate, utilizing yogic insights. We are all the sum total of our past. What we will be determines on how we work the now. Let me begin with the story of Mother India. The colonial rule over India was brutal. Economically, it was totally damaging. Near the entire cost of World War I was dumped onto India. And nearly the entire cost of World War II was also dumped onto India. There was a ruthlessness that was totally organized and professional. Freedom fighters like Nandhiji Subhash Chandra Bose and so many others who gave their lives for the nation did what they could possibly do to want freedom for Mother India. But the British had built up their warlike apparatus of governance, ruthless in punishment. So when Mahatma Gandhi came to India, initially from South Africa, he thought humans are humans after all. But when he came to India, he realized that was not true. And then came the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, when a group of innocent, non-violent gathering of over thousands of beings were simply gunned down and killed. So all of this violence and exploitation and destruction of India did produce a reaction that was violent. But the colonial British had years of experience in dealing with colonies and dealing with such exploitation. So they clamped down so heavily. There was a time in Mahatma Gandhi's story that he was at the verge of giving up, wondering what next to do. Hope was completely wiped out because of the ruthlessness in the way in which any revolt, rebellion, dissent was dealt with. So for over 15 years, Gandhiji was in political wilderness until one day, as he describes in his book, one day he had a prophetic vision, the vision of the Salt March, the vision of the Satyagraha movement, And this vision was the awakening of the spiritual India. So, when Mahatma Gandhi announced the Salt March, people from all over India recognized the consciousness behind the movement as non-violence, as a way to protest, as a way for each of us to come together. And all of India woke up. Beings like my grandfather, P. Ayyanadar, were industrialists. And in those days, without the backing of the British, being an industrialist was very difficult. So all the major business houses today that came from the wealth built before independence were all the favorites of the British, mostly. But some businessmen, like my grandfather, decided to join the revolt. The reason was because Satyagraha movement was conscious. Everyone recognized it. So all of India galvanized into action. And all over India, there was a protest to symbolically make the salt, challenging the British Empire. The freedom movement that was sleeping now woke up. And from here on, from this point on, freedom was inevitable because the spiritual India woke up. Now, just after the World War II ended, Britain was now even stronger than before, with its war apparatus all set and ready to take over every colony and go back to its colonial ways. But thanks to the non-violent movement of Mahatma Gandhi, it gained press. It gained admiration and love and respect from all over the world, especially America. So, the American president made it clear to the British Prime Minister that it is not ethical to continue with its colonialism. And because the spiritual India had woken up to clearly set moral high grounds as to why they cannot be colonial masters anymore, made England let go of its colony without bloodshed, without further exploitation. Thanks to the fact that India had woken up to its spiritual essence, India didn't collapse like Pakistan, and Indian minorities thrive. And in a nation as India, the spiritual mother India, we became the master of our destiny. Coming back to relating this to ourselves, let's determine what fate is and what brings us to fate. The first is, we are the karmic imprints of all the many lifetimes coming to the now. The sum total of all the many lifetimes. We are also that which generates karma, knowingly and unknowingly. A friend of mine who is a vegan a yoga studio owner, had a pug, a little dog, and she grew it up giving it vegan food. And one day, that dog went sniffing through the garbage while on a walk and ate meat, and thereafter refused to eat until she actually had to feed it meat. So the question is, was there karma for her not feeding the dog meat? Was there karma for her having bought the meat to feed the dog? This is how life is in terms of karmic accruals. Our very experience generates karma in its own forms. Repeat and repeat. The next is curse and hate we generate becomes a karmic pattern, becomes a part of our karma. For instance, you have all the wealth in the world and you see a beggar and you're not able to give that beggar that bit. In the beggar's mind, there is an energy field of exchange where one day our experience could be that of a beggar having to be in the receiving end of hoping to receive. So karma is that which actually happens all the time when we are in the experience from the mind and from the layers of reality. There's another dimension is we are all a package of destiny aligning to the uniqueness of our birth in time and all of the cosmology in play, which is called astrology. There is truth in astrology. Nearly all Indian weddings are conducted after matching the horoscope as astrology. In other words, there is a level of fate that is within each set. And then there is the ancestral family karma that we carry as a baggage, as blessings or as curse. Now, all of this as fate can be negated and transformed. All of our weakness and pains and threat of fate can be transformed and transmuted into opportunity, into blessings, into the greater gifts of life. When we understand we can be the masters of our destiny. The very first step to master destiny is to alight the core within us, to awaken to being the spirit. When we light the core within us, our journey has begun, and now we are able to meditate. To meditate really means to be the spirit having the human experience, to be beyond the mind, to be beyond the limits of our karmic imprints. The moment we are the spirit, we now are not entrapped by the karmic imprints of our mind and body. The second dimension is the power of thoughts. When there is wisdom, We are like an eagle flying all the way above the limits of existence. Every thought of ours in awareness from goodness generates dharma, generates the light that negates darkness, generates the blessings that overcomes limitations. So, what does this mean to generate positive thoughts? Just before eating, make a small prayer. Offer by your mind an intent, the food to feed all the hungry. If possible, to do good, do good. Every thought, let it be how to be the blessings of everyone. Every thought, climb up to the grandness of oneness, to understand ourselves in service of all others. Every thought, know that we are here in the highest purpose of being the angelic beings in the human. When we have transformed our thoughts to wisdom, now we are dissolving away fate and allowing ourselves to becoming the master of our destiny. The next dimension is the grace of our Guru. There is the higher vibratory energies, blessings from beings who are awake. When you are in the presence of an enlightened being, all of the karmic impediments and imprints dissolve away. This is why Christ mentions, "Come to me, I will remove your sins, I will dissolve your sins." This is the reason why the Guru's energy is powerful. The Guru means the one who dispels darkness. That darkness is the karmic imprints. To be with Guru's grace means hundreds of thousands of lifetimes are dissolved away in the light of the vibrancies of the Guru, who lights the lamp, the core within each of us. The Guru's grace awakens us to being a true self that is compassionate, empathetic, kind. All the goodness comes from awakening to a higher self, and that is the Guru's grace. To awaken to being a higher self, to awaken to understand ourselves as on the path of liberation, the path of liberating ourselves to being the vast, immense being that we inherently, intently are. The primordial light that we are is woken up by the Guru's grace. And in the moment, that fate that was waiting for us has dissolved away. Now, having woken up and being in the grace with our inner fire awake, we are now in the vortex of light, the vortex of source unions. And in the vortex of the source union, only goodness can happen. Whenever darkness in any form comes, in the form of our past karma, in the form of collective karma, in the form of ancestral karma, it all dissolves into our light. The power of higher vibrancies always dissolves the lower frequencies and lower vibrations. Light dissolves darkness. This is the whirling, vibrant pillar of light, the vortex of light that negates our limitations, our karmic patterns. And now, every moment of ours, we are the empowered consciousness that is seeing its highest self, highest purpose. We've taken birth to awaken to be the angelic being, to complete our heart's work. And that heart's work, the innermost, highest calling, sets us free, sets us to be the master of our destiny. Now, we realize another power, a power that is beyond anything that we can even imagine. This is the power of tapas. Mother India is a land of tapas. All the sages in their meditative mode are in tapas, the inner fire lit. The inner fire lit for days and months and years and lifetimes. The I has become the we. Tapas is an energy force that makes every impossible possible. When Mahatma Gandhi woke up the spiritual India, he was summoning the power of India's tapas. All the sage energies came together. All of the realized masters of the past, being in the now, is the power of many as one, the power of tapas, the inner fire of each of us being awake. Now, we know energy. We align to blessings. We are always at the receiving end of grace. So, we seek the blessings of all. Anybody gives us blessings, it enhances our destiny. And one of the sure ways that all sages of Mother India mention to attain the highest blessing is to feed the hungry. Our Guruji Rajaswami fed over 10 to 15 million people. And in the process, attained the empowerments of all forms of consciousness. The concept of feeding the hungry comes from the dimension of understanding our body as made of food. And the body is also a package of karma. So when we feed the hungry, we are erasing our own body karma, our own karma of existence. So all sages would say, feed the hungry. This is why in all weddings all across the globe, we call for everyone to come together and feed them, because when the stomach is full, there is a blessing to the one who gave it food. So, receiving the blessings of all simply by being a good person is powerful. Feed the hungry. That's even more beautiful from the subtle level of transforming our karma to dharma, our fate to greater, grander destiny. And now, to wake up to a highest purpose. This is dharma. We are all, upon awakening, the being of dharma. Dharma is the innately instilled highest purpose within each and every one of us have that. When we have woken up to our highest purpose, all our genius shines. All of the universe collaborates to allow us as our heart sings. Our vibratory energies is blessings to all. As in realities, in goodness, as in subtleness, enhanced consciousness. So, divine beings, let's go back into summarizing all that we could do to transform our fate to the grandness of destiny that we are the masters of. The first, light the inner lamp, awaken the core, set the journey within, be on the spiritual path. Know this path to be true when experiencing states of joy, that we set discipline to having more of states of joy, set discipline to being more of bliss, and awaken to being the spirit. Watch each thought in mindfulness. Determine the quality of thought. Every thought produces karma or dharma, and we can choose what we want. We can choose to be happy. We can choose to be good. We can choose to create our destiny. Then is the intent and action of dharma to negate karma, as in goodness, as in doings. Then is the Guru's grace, the masters who transform us, who set alight our inner Guru, who set us alight on a journey to realizing our supreme self, our liberated spirit. And then is to be the vortex of light at all times. Allow ourselves this joy and bliss and ecstasy of source unions, and tapping into the power of tapas, the innermost fire, transforming the limited I to the we of all the spirit, of all the realized masters, being the intent. And then receiving the blessings of all we encounter. Every human we encounter blessing us. And then understanding Anna Dharma, feeding the hungry, feeding others, as a more specific way of transforming the subtle energies of fate to destiny. And then is a life of purpose, that is dharma. So, divine beings, as master of our destiny, let's uplift all of humanity, enhancing consciousness of each in oneness, in grace of being. Om Namah Shivaya.